Okay. So tip of the day. It can be hard. Well, let's start back. Tip of the day. Consider the source. Always consider the source. So these are what I have done in paints. I don't know if you can see it or not. I put it on a board because I thought it would be easier to move. I don't think I'm going to be able to set that back. Can you see? Everything's going to slide. These are all the paint drops I've gotten done. This was my blue yesterday. Now I have to find a place to set this because it's not going to set back down where I had it. It'll set behind me if I can go like this. It'll set up there as things fall. So what fell? What fell was a teal. I had to reblend the teals. And I haven't put the... I take a little bit of the paint, like that. A little bit of water, a little bit of paint. And then I paint the color it's going to be down and around. Anyway, it's a teal. Consider the source. This is a blue I made that did not turn out at all, so there is paper stuck. Come here. Stuck to it because I had to peel it off the papers, which was rather annoying. I experiment too much. I should just stick to formulas and then it would turn out perfectly every time, but I enjoy experimenting. This did not have enough binder in it, the same as the teal did not have enough binder in it. Because I am trying to get translucence, because most of my paints are not really that translucent. They're on the gouache side of things. Anyway, consider the source. Yeah, I'm going to keep coming back to it. In art, I've already had one person tell me that they're going to start blending paints because it's not that hard. That's fine. Blending paints isn't that hard. Making paints is a lot of work. It's not hard work, but it's a lot of work. Grinding pigments down is a lot of work. Buying a kit is easy. It's the same as a certain person who, when I said I was going to get into resin casting jewelry, went and bought a complete kit and had resin cast jewelry within a week. So then I look like the imitator. Whatever. You're lame. A lot of tutorials out there. A lot of YouTube tutorials out there. For polymer clay, for art, for crafts, for all these things we like to do are designed for bored housewives and entertaining the kids. They aren't designed for making a product to sell. And your first clue is when they're buying retail. Okay, a lot of the jewelry tutorials. They're not designed to make you money. They're not designed to be a good buy. They're designed to give you something to do and something to show off and something to give the grandkids. Making paints is an example. You can go on and you can pull up how to make paints from eyeshadow. Yes, you can make paint from eyeshadow. If you have busted eyeshadow palettes that you don't want, I want them. I don't care what their color is. I want them. Because the filler in eyeshadow is a primary filler in paint. And it's an expensive filler, which means if I can get your eyeshadow ones the way I've been using these little guys, yeah, okay? That doesn't mean you can just dump it on a board, add some water to it, and call it paint. Paint has to bind to the paper, and you have to have a binder. That's what this is. This is the ingredient, not that. That's just color. Okay? This is the key to paint. Anyway, so you pull up a really cool tutorial on how to do jewelry. Okay, Turtle Soup Beads. When she first came out, does polymer clay tutorials. I thought she was the best when she first came out. She was showing all the old polymer clay tricks I learned way back in the day when Sculpey was new that you don't hear anymore. She was showing production. See, I took this block of samples and I made this many beads. Okay. My problem with her is twofold. One, her directions on how to coat your beads does not give you a professional product. You have to varnish beads when you're done with polymer to keep the polymer from being in contact with the skin. Or if it's going to sit on a piece of paper, if you put polymer on a piece of paper for 3 days to a month, it'll sweat out oils. Okay. Yes, I should grind this in a grinder. I need a small, I used to have a small brass mortar that was used for this. I need a brass mortar because if I put it in a rock mortar, I'll lose too much pigment into the mortar and it's just a waste of pigment. If I had a brass mortar, I could just mortar this crunch, 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 but I don't. So I have to do this and get it to dissolve, and I'm going to spill my coffee. Hi. That would be tragic, wouldn't it? So in her videos, she shows how she dips her beads, and she dips them on a string in varnish or day glow or whatever to do the coating. And if you do that, you wind up with beads with rough spots and crunchy spots and drips. And it's not professional looking because she's doing it assembly line and because she doesn't care about the finished product. Okay? Her product is the video. Got to remember that for a lot of these people. Their product is the video, not the finished product they're showing you. It doesn't have to be perfect for them. Okay? So that was my first issue. My second issue is she makes polymer beads look really, really good and high class. Why? Because she's stringing them with real gemstones and Swarovski crystals. That's really, really nice. That's beautiful. The problem with that is I don't have the money for real gemstones and real Swarovski crystals. But I was forgiving her that because, you know, you can buy a small packet here and a small packet there and you can make it work and everything. And yeah, you know, her product looks good and she uses recycled newspaper or cardboard and she does everything right, it seems. And then she did a tour of her studios, plural. And in the tour of her studios, she showed off not tens of thousands. She showed off millions of dollars in backstock. Rows and drawers and drawers and drawers of crystals and gemstones. Oh, I got that when I was at a trade show. I don't remember how much I paid for it. And she uses it in her necklaces, and then she prices out her necklaces. She has no idea how much her necklaces cost her. Okay? She has no idea. So she's just pricing. Those two factors are a huge ish to me. There's another YouTuber whose name escapes me right now who did a tutorial on paint making, specifically using things around the house. Pastel chalks. You can use pastel chalks. You cannot use oil chalks, but you can use pastel chalks. Old watercolors that were all busted up and gross. And eyeshadow. And she made her palettes. She made her paints. And she's talking on along and everything. And she's using a commercially made binder. That's great. Commercially made binder is expensive. I priced it out. Commercially made binders. Okay, the little pans that you put the paints into cost 50 cents each. And that's if you buy a couple hundred of them. They cost 50 cents each. The commercial binder would add another 50 cents to each and every pan. Okay. So that's $1 a pan for, I don't think I have a pan handy. This little plastic thing is a pan. It's a half pan. Okay. It costs 50 cents. If you buy a bunch of them. I want to go to metal half pans, and I may go to metal pans instead of half pans. I haven't decided. Can you see how this is starting to dissolve? Yeah, it's starting to make paint. It made paint once before. I've got to make it make paint again with more binder this time. If there's not enough binder, it cracks and falls apart and won't hold on to things. Binder is what makes it hold on to the paper. So if it cracks when it dries, it's not going to hold on to the paper if you paint. It means that when you paint, okay, these are my natural rock ones, okay? Now, if you watch right here, that's dust. I can dust it right off. See that? Where am I at? There I am. See that? I dusted it right off. This holds. But this area here where I did my wash test doesn't hold. That's fine for natural pigment paints, for rock paints. Okay, the granulation comes away. Okay, this doesn't come away at all. There, see how I dusted it off? Okay, that's fine. But if I were doing it with my blue paint and the blue was dusting off, we would have a problem now, wouldn't we? Okay, anyway. There's a girl who does a lot of art videos. She's very popular. I like most of her art videos. They're a good starting point. But she did one on making paints, and she used Winsor & Newton's watercolor binder. You can buy acrylic binder too. Acrylic binder is just watered down PVA glue, just for the record. Mod Podge works too. Oil paint is linseed or walnut oil. You know? I might make some oil paints. That's what I started out making years and years and years ago, was oil paints. But the tubes are expensive. Anyway, she did this video. And I was really liking it. And then she did the second half of the video where she took things from the kitchen to make paints. And she used red cabbage and beets. Red cabbage makes a beautiful blue. And beets and some berries and I think parsley juice. Anyway, she made a whole bunch of paints and she's talking about them and she's painting with them and they're beautiful paints. They're not sun safe. Okay? Plant-based paints, you put them in the sunshine, they turn brown or they go away. Okay? Next time I come on, I will show you something I embroidered 30 years ago where the blue has gone away. And it's traumatic to have put that much energy into it and the blue went away. Okay? Because it was a home dye and it wasn't color safe. Yeah, you can use a lot of things to make paints, but if you want paints that are archival, you know, a lot of the medieval greens and blues don't hold. They turn different colors. So a lot of the Renaissance paintings aren't, what we see isn't what they were. Because the paints weren't archival. I don't mind if my paint fades in 600 years. You know, 300 years. I mind if my paint fades in 6 weeks to a month. Because this amount of sunlight from my window, that's sunlight from my window, is going to cause my paint to fade. So that got me thinking. And there was a page I used to follow back in the days of blogs where she would show you how to take things and get ready for the craft show. And there's a lot of things you can do to get ready for the craft show where you can make some money. And it just got me thinking, be careful where you're considering your source, because the art that is good for, I need to make art and I'm going to give it as a Christmas present, isn't the same thing as the art that is, I want to sell this. It's the difference between student canvases or student paints and professional canvases and professional paints. Okay, student canvases have a slicker weave and about that much depth. Okay, professional gallery canvases have a cruder weave because you're supposed to know how to cover that. Gesso is your friend. And they're about that deep. And that doesn't sound like that much, but that affects the springiness of the canvas when it dries. That affects, it affects things. Student paints versus archival paints versus gallery paints especially in oil paints, are completely different things. Student watercolors are the cheap-ass dollar store watercolors that you buy that are cornstarch, wheat flour, food coloring, and maybe a glue binder that the kids get to make a mess with and put on the refrigerator. They're not designed to be durable. They're not designed to last. They're not designed to blend. They're not primary colors. This is a primary blue, which means it will blend reliably every time I blend it. If this blue had reds or greens in it, it wouldn't be a primary blue, and when I went to blend it, it would blend weird, and I'd wound up with browns. This blue has no fillers in it, no chalk. I'm not against chalk. Chalk is a great filler. No titanium dioxide. I like titanium dioxide. It's a great filler. It allows you to make twice as much paint. Fillers allow you to make twice as much paint for the amount of pigment. But they aren't translucent, and I'm trying to master translucent. Everything I've put this stuff in, I've used this for its titanium dioxide, not for its color. It doesn't have enough color to do. Anyway, I'm not using it as a pigment, I'm using it as a filler. And you have to watch, when you're watching a tutorial on how to do something, what are they doing with it next? Where's their website? Where's their Etsy? Go to their Etsy and see what their prices are. Are their prices reasonable or are their prices ridiculous? There's a yarn dyeing YouTube channel I follow that started out brilliant to me and has been slowly but surely sliding. And it's been slowly but surely sliding the more successful she gets. Because she started out experimenting and showing you what works and doesn't work. And now she's just showing you her working. She knows what works and doesn't work 90% of the time. There's no experimentation to it. She's been doing this series right now about uneven heat where she claims she's experimenting. There's a problem with that. Wilton's Violet purple dye, food coloring dye, reacts in a very uniform way. The red binds first, the blue binds second, which means that when you have Wilton's Violet, which is purple, you will get purple, red, and blue all on the same yarn. It's kind of cool, okay? It's a really cool, Broken Violet is a really cool trick. So she's testing uneven heat to see how uneven heat affects a dye batch, which means from a strictly scientific view, if you wanted to test that hypothesis, you would start with something you knew was going to break. You would start with your Wilton's Violet. She's not starting with her Wilton's Violet. She started with yellow. She wants to see if yellow absorbs unevenly, just that one color. Well, you haven't proven that the heat does what you think it does. Therefore, proving that one primary color does what you think it does is kind of a ridiculous starting point. So the yellow didn't work. So her next video, she did red. Red didn't work. And it didn't work not because of the concept. It didn't work because, oh, I screwed up. I didn't do this parameter right. No, bitch. You're deliberately setting things up to fail so that you can keep your audience watching. And this last video, it was really, really transparent. Oh, I screwed up. Okay, you're a professional dyer. You do this 5 times a week. You dye 100 skeins of yarn every single week. You can't convince me that you made the accident twice in a row on the same exact experiment. You know? Nah. The product is the video, not the yarn. But I may do an uneven heat test with purple dye just to see, because I'm curious. Because she's obviously not going to do it, or she did it first, but she isn't showing the videos. That's completely possible. This is almost done. What I have left, I'm pretty sure, are just the pieces of paper. So let's try mulling a bit. Copy. Do you hear any scritching? It's not ready. Yeah, there's some scritching. There's some scritching. It's all fine and dandy to want to make... Okay, gnomes were really popular for a couple of years now, making those little sock gnomes. Sock gnomes are awesome. There's 1,000 videos on how to make them. I would never make them for a craft show or an art show or a farmer's market because there's 10,000 videos out there showing everybody how to do it. And everybody's doing it. And everybody has a sock gnome. And if they don't have a sock gnome, their friend made them a sock gnome. You know? There's something solid on my thing. That's the paint, or the paper. See the paper? I love the dendritic patterns, the fractal patterns. You can't see it very well. So I take this little bit here, which we know is paper, and I put it there, and I take this little bit here, which we know is paper, because I can tell it's paper, and we put it here, and I have paint. I have made paint while we were talking from busted paint. Oops, there's a big chunk. What are you? You are paper. Yeah, because it showed white. I scrape against it and it shows white, which shows me that it's paper, because watercolor doesn't dye the paper. It just sits on the surface. And your paper. Anyway, I wouldn't go to an event trying to sell gnomes, because every bored housewife out there has made 3. And because they didn't have to care about cost and benefit analysis, the RIO, cost and return, they used higher quality products. You know, they used velvet. They used that fabric from the back of their stash. Whereas you or I making something to go to an event would have to... Okay, I want to sell these for $35 each. I can't spend $85 on fabric to make them. Or more likely, I just don't have $85. So, that's pretty much my thing. So, you know, I take these and I take one of these. First, I do a paint test just to see how it looks. And I pick up some paint. I pick up some more paint, and I find a blank spot on my swatch card, and I paint down like that, and then I do a pickup test to make sure it's not staining, and I paint down like that, and then I let it dry. See, that's the fluid of the paint. And that's what makes that dark ink line with watercolors. Is it focusing? It is not focusing. Of course it's not focusing. Anyway. And there's a gray note to it. It's not bad. It's a light blue. It's not bad. Looks like it would layer well. So then I make 3 dots. Like this. Some colors get a large amount of paint, some colors don't. It depends on how much they spread, how fluid they are. This one looks to be spreading a lot. The only markets that are open right now, and I'm betting are going to be open this summer reliably, are farmers markets. Which means you have to market to the fringe of mainstream. You can sell horror stuff or biker stuff, or I'll be right back. I need 2 pans. You can sell whatever it is you want to sell, but you also have to have something for mainstream. And you can't be too far out there or you'll get the pitchforks going. But you can set up with, back when we did zombies, people will cross the aisle to go look at you. Same as doing the gun shows. The trick is knowing your risk assessment. I am not willing to go to one of these markets and put myself in harm's way with people who think coronavirus is a myth and aren't going to wear masks. That's not on my list of acceptable things. I was going to grab that page while I was up there, but I guess I won't. Let's fill these first. So you have to figure out something closer to mainstream than you would if you were going to an event, because events you get to be out there and have fun. And farmers markets, they're looking for Bliss and Any granola crunchers usually. Although you can look something else, but the market is looking for cottage industry. Anyway, that was my thought process. I kind of rambled. I kind of do that. I made blue paint. It's a pretty color. It was a pretty color the last time I made it. Okay, I remade blue paint because I'd made it wrong the first time, but half of success is knowing how to fix your mistakes. More than half of success is knowing how to fix your mistakes. So each batch tends to make 3 drops in 2 pans. That's where I'm averaging. The pans full on Etsy and wrapped and pretty and everything sell for around $5. Remember I said they're costing me about $1. I'm not filling my pans full because to fill my pans full, I would fill my pan and then I would let it set for 72 hours. I would put my extra paint, which I don't have any of, in the refrigerator, and 72 hours from now I would refill my pan because the amount of paint in your pan, the paint shrinks as it dries. And yeah, now I have a whole bunch of blue on the board to paint rainbow stripes with, and I have a whole bunch of blue on my fingers because I squished a Smurf. And my wash rag disappeared because somebody took it. Because he's helpful. And he took it to go do washing, probably. Anyway. Yeah, that's where I'm at. I got on Facebook this morning and an acquaintance of an acquaintance, somebody that's involved in a group that I have nothing to do with anymore, posted this big huge thing about how they're making watercolors now and they're going to be selling their watercolors. And it was like, really? Really? Y'all are stalking me still? And then I watched, I went to their page. It's not stalking when they do that. And checked out what they're doing. And it's really nice to have the $300 to buy the full kit. I know exactly where they got the full kit. And it's really hard to fuck that up. That full kit will make you amazing paints. They won't make you anything you're going to make a profit on. You know? They really won't. So good luck to them. I wish them well. And they need to watch different tutorials because they just made hobby paints and not professional paints, because the kit they bought was for the person to make your own paints, not for making paints to sell. Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.